When I say student success, do I mean social success, career success, or sports success, or academic success? Well, of course, what we're talking about in this presentation is academic success. First things first, there are a number of things you need to do to prepare. Anyone can collect data. It's done constantly in the enterprise. What are your project objectives? Is the data for a degree program, school, the university, student affairs, etc.? When do you know when to stop building and analyzing your data? All these things need to be decided. If the objective is to increase graduation or reduce dropout rates, over what period of time will that change need to occur? Next, you need a data plan. You already have a great data resource, Admissions in Registrar. They can provide extensive data, longitudinal data. Typically, the further back your data goes, the greater the value of that data. The LMS is a treasure trove of quantitative and qualitative data. Student evaluations done outside the LMS also can provide similar gems. Then ask, what do you need further? Your LMS may not be capable of very detailed data like XAPI and Caliper, which then require extensive storage capabilities as well as data analysis. Other places you may look for additional data is tracking variables in admissions which you do not currently track but are known to affect student success. Another major area for consideration is data visualization. That will not be discussed here on this slide. However, in a couple of more slides, we'll be showing Notre Dame's ability to visualize data. Frankly, there's just too much raw data for us to actually analyze without the ability to do data visualization. Throughout your efforts, you should always assess, assess, assess. Without doing that, you'll likely go off target very quickly. A place to start the success journey is alerts. You can alert on almost anything. Class attendance, late submission, failure to log in, failure to read a key document, or watch a specific video. Ask who should be alerted. A missed assignment may be the student and a TA. Failing to log in for X number of days may be the student and the advisor. You have to determine what your thresholds are. Alert too often, the alerts will be ignored. Alert too little, and it's probably going to be too late. You need to be able to determine exactly where the alerts will appear in your system.
Dan Goldsmith, the CEO of Instructure, which owns Canvas.
Dan Goldsmith, the CEO of Instructure, which owns Canvas, the fastest growing LMS platform, is quoted at the top right of the screen. He says they can predict a student's likelihood of passing a class before he or she even starts the class. What does that say about how the design of courses and course offerings should be restructured? For additional views, please retrieve the EdSurge article listed on the last slide. Thank you. Let's dive deeper into the data that's available. A typical student sitting behind a tree on her laptop is probably generating all kinds of data as she goes through the learning management system and the other things that happen in a typical computing system. But she also has a set of data that was generated even before she came to the university. First of all, we'll know about her race and ethnicity. We'll probably know if she's a first-generation enrollee. We'll have her courses and grades. Hopefully, we'll know if she has college prep classes, which have been shown to actually improve overall performance for underclassmen. And then, of course, we'll have national exam scores. Now, there's also a known correlation between whether or not somebody is a first-generation college enrollee and their ability to achieve certain levels of academic success, as well as race and ethnicity. As the student begins to go forward in the curriculum, she's going to start generating a number of other activities throughout her progress. So some things that could be captured is, has she visited her faculty member's office? How many times does she do that? These things could be reported by faculty. Also, of course, how often has she gone in for student counseling? Then we can look at, has she sought academic support services? So for instance, has she gone to math tutoring? Has she gone to group tutoring? Does she go into the library and seek support? How well is she utilizing those services? And then, of course, there's always the referral for support. So this is the idea that an individual in a class can refer somebody else to, say, student affairs for support. So these are all things that are correlative to how the student is progressing through the curriculum. Now, qualitative data is a bit more difficult to capture. So some universities go out and perform group discussions with students who are underachieving. This is, of course, a privacy issue, since you're capturing data that identifies how a student is performing in an institution. You can also conduct satisfaction surveys to see how students are satisfied with their curriculum. You, of course, have course evaluations. In, say, a curriculum that's similar to a third-year curriculum course, you also have a great deal of data for student observations that come off the clerkship evaluations. There's also, if the individual lives in the dorms, we could track what is the resident assistant observing about their behavior. Do they seem depressed? Are they sick? What's going on in their lives? And then again, I've listed peer referral. Now, academically, this data all comes out of the LMS or the external testing system. So, of course, you have quiz scores, test scores, subject matter exams, reflections, which are a qualitative data source. You have the ability to normalize the evaluation of those reflections using rubrics. But another data source is how many times is the student logging in to the learning management system. If they're not logging in routinely, then they're probably at risk for not keeping up with the content. How often within, say, a week have they logged in? There's also time spent in the LMS, which can be tracked, which shows how engaged they are. And then, of course, there's things like how much time have they spent watching videos, or how much time are they, accessing key documents. So these are elements of what can be recorded across the student spectrum in order to calculate the ability of the student to be successful. As I said previously, one of the great challenges is how do you visualize the data that you've been collecting. So shown here is Notre Dame's Performance Viz homework and exam analytics data system. What Notre Dame has done is they've taken years and years of exam statistics across many courses for many students, and they basically mapped that out to show if on your first exam you receive a grade of D, for instance, the probability that you are going to be able to go up to an A by the end of the course is really essentially non-existent. D's and F's, as shown here, are unlikely to get any higher than a B. Now, obviously, the top tier of students who get A's on the first exam and then get A's on the second exam are very likely to wind up with an A in the course. But you can also see, so these are kind of spaghetti strands actually are showing the flow. So some students get A on the first exam, A on the second exam, and they may actually fall off even though they've gotten an A on the third exam through other work, and then they wind up with a B. So this is a very nice predictive model that can actually help educate you on when a student gets an A on the first exam, what is the probability of them getting an A in the course? But if they get a C, what is the probability of them getting an A? Which, as the chart shows, it's basically impossible. So this is a great analytics display and would be something that could be very useful for student advising.